10:31, we got some news from inside the courtroom. Apparently, the district attorney's office has filed a written motion, so they have made it official to try and hold Donald Trump in contempt for violating the gag order that was put onto him by the judge.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Manhattan, New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg filing a motion against Trump to hold him in contempt of court for violating the gag order that was placed on him in the Stormy Daniels hush money trial. Now, this whole thing, before we even get into it, this whole thing is bogus. Okay, they're talking about, oh, well, he paid the money, but he didn't pay it properly, and it went through that channel rather than that channel, so we're going to have this trial. A ridiculous thing that shouldn't even be happening, especially in a place like New York City where they just let wherever go on. You could do pretty much whatever you want in New York City. And as a matter of fact, can I just show you guys something that I saw, something that came across my timeline? You see this? Accused New York City subway slasher busted for stabbing a 1-year-old boy in Philly just days after skipping his court date. So what does that mean? Great question. Glad you asked. What this means is this guy was arrested for an alleged subway slashing and let out with no bail. He was given a court date. Hey, promise you'll come back. I know we caught you stabbing somebody on the subway, and you're probably crazy, and you've probably been arrested before, and you probably got a long rap sheet with violent crime, but we're going to give you no bail. Promise you're going to come back on the court date? Sure. Holding a knife. Yeah, I'll come back. And then rather than going to court, he goes to Philly and stabs a baby. So when you got guys like this roaming the street and they're not locked up and the law is not really serious, why are we trying to get Trump locked up or jammed up on contempt of court for social media posts? Make it make sense. You're going to have a hard time doing it. Now, let's get to this right here. Here's an article from Axios, and we're going to hear from MS-13 DNC and see what they got to say. But check it out. Quote, defendant is not above the law. Well, I guess certain people are and certain people aren't in New York City. New York prosecutors urge judge to hold Trump in contempt. And there's your man, Alvin Bragg, right there. Let's check out a little bit of this. So Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg filed a motion Tuesday seeking to hold former President Trump in contempt for alleged violations of his partial gag order in the New York criminal case. Why it matters. Prosecutors in the Tuesday filing pointed to recent posts on the former president made on his True Social account attacking two known witnesses, Michael Cohen, his former lawyer, and Stormy Daniels. All right. So you saying certain things about Michael Cohen, Stormy Daniels, then that's an issue, okay? So there's more here. They're talking about he could be fined $3,000. I mean, how petty are you going to get? Really, how petty are you going to get? $3,000? We're talking about a former president. $3,000? Are you going to lock him up? If you're going to lock Trump up over a gag order violation, then what's up with this guy that slashed somebody on the subway, allegedly? I don't know if they caught him red-handed or what, but I'm pretty sure that the subway slasher did it because rather than going to court, he stabbed a baby. So we could just add 1 + 1 and get 2. We don't really got to just say alleged, like maybe he did it, maybe he didn't do it. All right, let's get to what MS-13 DNC has to say on the matter. Before we get to MS-13 DNC, actually, let's hear a little bit from Trump and see what his thoughts are on the whole situation. Check it out.
Thank you very much. This is a trial that should have never been brought. It's a trial that is being looked at all over the world. They're looking at it and analyzing it. Every legal pundit, every legal scholar said this trial is a disgrace. We have a Trump-hating judge. We have a judge who shouldn't be on this case. He's totally conflicted, but this is a trial that should never happen. It should have been thrown out a long time ago. If you look at Jonathan Turley, Andy McCarthy, all great legal scholars, there's not one that we've been able to find that said this should be a trial.
Sorry for the sound, but you get the general idea of what's going on. He's like, look, this trial is bogus. Great legal minds say the trial shouldn't be a thing. I agree with him 100%. I think that he's correct. But of course, I don't think that the people over at MS13 DNC are going to feel the same way. So let's check this out. And of course, I will link to everything in the box. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Catherine Christian, your legal opinions about how tough a line this is and what you expect the judge to do.
I would say it's put up or shut up time for the judge, because if he doesn't, at a minimum, admonish him and tell him to remove the post. And one of them, he actually named Michael Cohen, called him a liar. You can say, well, he is because he has a conviction. No, that's directly to his credibility. He's a witness. And Trump was told.
So if he called Michael Cohen a liar and he was convicted of lying, is that, well, I don't understand what Trump did that was wrong. I don't really get it.
In a gag order not to do that. So he should be admonished, fined, and told to remove the post. And if he's not, then the gag order is meaningless.
Well, we know he's going to think about it over lunch, but he has to have anticipated this, Catherine.
I'm sure the judge knew beforehand that this was on, and I'm sure the defense attorneys were prepared.
Does he know what his outer limits are going to be? I mean, Donald Trump is going to continue talking about this. Will there come a point where these potentially $1,000 fines start to become meaningless and the judge needs to step it up? And if so, how?
Yeah, well, as Vaughn said, the prosecutor...
I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to try to lock him up? Because the fines, they mean nothing. This whole gag order thing, I only understand the purpose of that. Like, the trial itself is dumb, unnecessary. What they call it, lawfare, just trying to get Trump wrapped up in legal proceedings so he can't go out there and campaign effectively, and also to drain his resources because you got to pay for the lawyers. But like the $1,000 flight, what is that really going to do? What's the purpose of the gag order, really? Probably the same purpose of the trial itself, just to be an annoyance, to get in the way, to distract from the ultimate goal, which is to become the president again.
Prosecutor said if he does it again, that he should be warned that he'll be jailed. So you're right, 1,000. No, this is the judge now has an opportunity to show who is the judge.
Would he actually go as far as jailing Donald Trump?
You know, I don't understand why he can't. All you have to do is, it's easy for me to say this, but you get the head of the Secret Service in there and say, if I have to incarcerate former President Trump, will you be able to keep him safe?
But what about the political impact of that? I mean, this is a man who has raised money, millions and millions of dollars, plus poll numbers on playing the victim ever since this indictment came down.
Every single time there has been...
You wouldn't lock up President Trump. That'd be the worst possible thing you could do. Do not do that. Okay, don't do it. That'd just be really, really bad. And over something so petty like this, like, if you want to lock up a president, it needs to be a really high standard, not posting memes on the internet. That's not a very good standard to lock a president up. That's not a good standard to lock anybody up, let alone a president.
In a court case, they have raised money off of it. Every time he has appeared outside of court, they have raised money off of it.
Don't jail him the first time or even the second time. But what does this say about regular people who wouldn't get a third, a fourth, a fifth, and a second chance?
Would you say that Donald Trump is being treated differently?
Of course he is. And we'll find out after lunch. But I think Donald Trump deliberately sort of wants to see how far he can go with this judge right at the beginning.
He says he's being treated unfairly. Is he being treated more favorably?
He definitely is being treated more fairly. There's no way. First of all, he has 4 open indictments. Most defendants would be in jail in one of those jurisdictions just because of that. So he clearly is being treated specially on all of his cases.
So what is the line, Chuck?
Well, it's
heavy sigh.
It's hard.
Big breath.
It's hard to
Judge
draw,
Rosenberg.
but Catherine is exactly right. The judge needs to establish his control over this proceeding, over the court, and over this defendant.
Send a message early.
It's a kangaroo court, though, so the whole thing is bogus, and I think maybe the judge at a certain point understands it. So what can you really do in this bogus type situation? You got to play along. Man, you might as well put an actor in there. You might as well put Kevin Spacey or some guy in there to pretend to be a judge and go about it that way. Because real judges at a certain point understand that this is bogus. They have to. Maybe it's just me that thinks that, but I think the judge have to understand that the whole thing is ridiculous and there's not much you can do as far as trying to enforce a gag order trying to make the president not post things on Truth Social and the threat of locking them up as a punishment, I don't think that can be on the table, especially when you got guys that stab people in the subway, allegedly, who get out with no bail and then go do the very same thing again in a whole different city.
Well, send a message that's fair and thoughtful, and that he would send to a defendant in any other case. You know, we keep talking about the fact that nobody is above the law. Mr. Trump is not above the law, but neither is he below the law. He should be treated like anyone else would be treated. Now, logistically, that's hard because not everyone else has a Secret Service detail, for instance, or 4 pending indictments. But if you're going to run a trial, and the only person who runs a trial is a judge, then you have to, and this sounds trite and cliched, lay down the law. It's time to do it.
One of the
All right, so we'll see what happens with that. That's pretty much that. I'll link to the article. I'll link to the videos. I'll link to everything in the box. But that's what's going on right now. Alvin Bragg has filed a motion to hold Trump in contempt of court for posting things on Truth Social about Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen. A really, really ridiculous thing, especially in New York City, where you can pretty much do whatever you want without really getting any kind of serious punishment. It's Gotham City at this point. But as I close, I want to say this. All these trials against Trump are bogus. The Fulton County thing, which I don't think can survive. I mean, technically it's still alive, but how can that continue on after the whole Fonnie Willis kerfuffle? Then we're in New York talking about Stormy Daniels and hush money. Now, Stormy Daniels lost a case against Trump and has got to pay him $140,000 for legal fees, but yet Stormy Daniels is still part of this case because they're saying that Trump paid her money indirectly or improperly. It's just stupid. All of it is dumb. We all know the reason why these things are happening. And the more they keep pushing forward, the more that people build support for Trump, the more we'll galvanize around Trump in 2024 in the election. I don't see how this thing goes any other way. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on what Alvin Bragg has done? What's your take on all these trials? Do you think they're legitimate, illegitimate? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. This is all bogus. This is all BS. It's just a way to keep Trump out of the way of the election. That's all. Because they know they can't really just defeat him normally fair and square. So they got to do all this funny business. I don't really see anything else because these things that they're trying to get him on are ticky-tack at best. They're grasping for straws at best. So you got to ask yourself, what's the purpose of them doing all this? I think we know. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.